Hello there, Dan the Weatherman here. Hey, welcome to my weather show. This is the global edition, taking a look at the weather around the globe for the coming week. And there's lots of different things going on. First off, you look at the Northern Hemisphere, and this is the temperature anomalies. You see lots of orange, lots of red, warmer than normal. But there are some blobs of blue. It's been colder than normal across central parts of Canada. Some spots, for instance, in the past week have barely seen temperatures into double figures for highs. And then further south, you see the same sort of thing, blobs of cool, as you'd expect, coming out of Antarctica, but these extreme zones of red as well. That's because the polar vortex here is really coming to life. And when you get that, you get those contrasts of warm and cold. Deep lows develop in the southern seas, and those send surges of warmth in towards Antarctica, all creating weather. And you see by the time we go through the week, there's lots more orange and red on the map. Surges of warmth into Siberia, quite a surge of warmth into western parts of North America, a big building ridge thanks to the jet stream buckling as it comes across the Pacific. And you can see it's really getting some oomph. Bit more zonal wind, bit more strength in the wind because the polar vortex here, it's just growing and you're getting a greater contrast of cold and warmth. Up here, it looks like kind of a plate of spaghetti. Lots of bits and pieces just strewn about. There's no real organization because right now the jet stream in the Northern Hemisphere is in a wiggly phase. But as the week goes on, a couple of things to point out. First off, that little circle there, area of low pressure, moves across the Atlantic. That will send an area of wet and windy weather into western parts of Europe. Notice a couple more surges going up that way. That's surges of warmth into parts of Siberia and eastern parts of Asia. And remember the warmth too. As this bend goes up, that allows the warmth to go through. Cold air has to go north. And look at all this stuff. Another surge of cold there heading towards South Africa, and quite an intense one, wintry weather, moving to parts of Australia and in particular New Zealand. La Nina's been the big thing we've been talking about for months. That is still in the ocean. This is looking at the Pacific Ocean, the anomalies or the change in the sea temperature. Blue being cooler than normal, red and orange being warmer than normal. It is still there as you look at the last, couple of months, but see how the areas of blue are just trying to sort of fade or getting a little bit weaker. It's come off the boil, shall we say, because these are the zones for the La Nina in the central, across parts of the equator. See how they've already hit the coldest point? Now they're starting to become less cold. So that means La Nina is weakening. It is still there, but there's other stuff affecting the weather right now. There's oscillations, one particular one that's helping to grow what is this tropical troublemaker to the east of Florida. This is formed, could become a tropical storm, more than likely not a big mean hurricane because it's got a lot of shear, so it's not going to develop into a big mean nasty. You can already see the cloud moving that way. What it will do, as it tracks going north and east, could develop quite a bit of rain to southeastern parts of Florida. 100 to 200 millimeters of rain as the thing just sits there and then eventually churns away. For the rest of the US, I mentioned that big area of warmth. That is really going to get going. You can see what is that tropical troublemaker there. If it becomes a storm, could get the name of Alex, but it will get pushed off pretty quickly. A few severe storms across the midsection of the US. These have been pretty active with the heat. But remember, there's this big zone of warmth, big upper ridge that's going to form across western areas, pushing the jet stream further north. And the big thing it'll do by the end of the week, it will take temperatures and boom, send them through the roof. Look at this. By the end of the week, we could be looking at triple-digit heat. Once again, parts of Texas to the desert southwest. But look how far north the orange and the red go, all the way into the Canadian Arctic. We could be looking at temperatures well into the 80s, if not a few spots, of course, well into the 90s. It's been a real patchwork of weather across parts of Europe. Been a bit of a wet end, unfortunately, to the Jubilee celebrations going on across parts of Britain because of an area of low pressure and a bend of a front there. That works away. Then the weather does quieten it down. But remember, we've got an active jet stream barreling in another system from the Atlantic. So that's another spell of wind and some rain. Look at that guy winding into parts of Britain as the week goes on. At the same time, a big zone of warmth spreads across the rest of Europe. So with that, you've got warm air coming out of Africa back to the 30s across many areas, even parts of Spain, could be close to 40s, and contrast that to northern areas where you see that green, you're struggling to 10 to even 15 degrees. That's it. The polar vortex is busy. It's active. In the southern hemisphere, you've got darkness, so the polar vortex grows. This time of year, of course, it's the southern hemisphere's turn. Australia, South America, look at that thing extending well up into the stratosphere. And it's when these lobes of cold, they just flail out, almost like a mad or an angry octopus of sorts. This little zone and lobe right here, bending past Australia and New Zealand, that will create a wintry outbreak through the course of the week. And you'll see what I mean as the week goes on. Look at things for Australia and New Zealand. Starting off as just some fronts here and there, then we get this churn from the Southern Ocean, wound up looking low, the blue line, the snow level dropping, and then of course by the end of the week, look at that surge of cold air. That could kick the snow level down to pretty low levels across parts of New Zealand. Roar, straight in. So definitely the warm layers coming in handy there, and as well for parts of southeastern Australia. That's the weather for now.